Okay, hey, what's up? It's Mike. Uh, just wanted to talk a little bit today about how to really use an app like this and sort of why I built it and why it's for me like the ultimate tool for videography and cinematography. I really did try to design this with cinematographers and like operators in mind. You can see I'm just running over USB for now for the high quality playback and speed, and this is just really a live demonstration. So no editing tricks here. I'm going to flip on the scope and I'm going to flip on my traffic lights. Right, so we can see a pretty healthy waveform here. Right, there's not a lot of clipping below the clip line for shadows. And so generally with something like the ZR, or even Sony cameras and a lot of other cameras, this is where you want to be. This is how you kind of prevent noise. And I mean, you can see the goalpost that there is a bit of noise meter there, but what that's based on is that you see that middle line there, that's middle gray. And the way my traffic lights work is that if something is below or above middle gray, depending on the weight and quantity of information, pixels and luma values and RGB values that are above or below middle gray, that's how you get the weighting system. It's not exactly red traffic lights, and unfortunately, we don't have access to raw data, so we're doing our best. But I think that the tool that I've built is actually more effective because I originally tried to use red's traffic light math against this, and it was too sensitive. It just really didn't give you good exposure, heads up exposure readings. So let me show you what happens, right? Like this is, and this helps you really understand how exposure works on the ZR and other Nikon cameras. So let me underexpose this, right? I'll go to 4. And you know, it's a pretty ugly image, but you can see that the shadow information starting to get clipped against the bottom line. And that's and we've got so much headroom before we clip our highlights, right? So, and you can see here also on the traffic lights, they're pinned, right? Tons of noise and RGB values in shadow clipping, right? So let's go back. Let's go back to standard exposure, what I would consider for this scene, and let's blow it out, right? I'm going to go high, 6400, and bam, you can see we're getting some clipping data. And why aren't the traffic lights and goalposts like fully clipping? Because still the majority of the scene, you see the waveform data, the majority of the scene is still under that warning and clipping point. But obviously, like, so you would be able to recover my face and a lot of the mid-tone detail. You know, let's even turn on. I'll just turn off fast, and we'll turn on zebras, and we'll do highlight zebras, right? So you can see that the stuff behind me is clipping the sky, but my face is not clipping yet. And really that's like the majority of information in the scene. And a lot of the other information in the scene is not clipping. So for you to really pin the traffic lights on clipping, then the majority of your scene needs to clip. But you can see here with zebras or even false color, you know, we're running pretty hot, right? So, I mean, of course, if we had to use high ISO, I would try and bring that down as much as I can and get somewhere, you know, a little more reasonable. So let me turn off that false color. That's usable, right? But you can see how truncated the waveform becomes, and we do still have some clipping, but the majority of our data is now sort of sitting close to middle gray. And you know what? We don't have any shadow noise at a setting like this. But obviously, you know, we'd want a bit of headroom, and we'd want to do something more like this. So that's kind of how I use waveforms and traffic lights, and you can see the false color stuff there as well. Um, you know, all the other stuff is sort of convenience, but for exposure specifically, I think the best thing that you can do is pull up this waveform and play with it and just see what happens, right? Like, let's take a look at 3200, right? So we get this expansion of the waveform within because we're adding sensitivity. The base ISO doesn't really change, and in truth, in post, you can always change this because it's a raw value, right? But we're still not clipping, and we have really no shadow noise. Now, it doesn't look great on screen right now, but in post, you could bring this exposure down, and the benefit here is that you would have gotten 0 shadow noise. So that would give you a really clean image. and we're still not clipping, you know? So if I go to my zebras, I'm just getting a warning, and you can see that warning, right? You can see that warning in the waveform, right? It's not quite clipping yet. It's at the warning line. So yeah, I mean, this is a fully recoverable image. Does it look great straight out of camera? No, not so much. You know, personally, I just like the way I like things with a bit of this kind of exposure. And again, this is also fine. I mean, we're getting into the warning of the shadows, but for me, I mean, I like a little bit of filmish grain and stuff like that, and I really don't think it's an issue. I think this would be fine. On the other hand, you know, if we went to 400 or something like that, now we're starting to clip the shadows a bit, and our exposure just looks under. You know, it just looks under. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is the kind of stuff you want to play with. You want to play with all these values and play with all these settings and really watch this great waveform. I mean, I hate to toot my own horn, but this is one of the best waveform monitors I've ever used, especially compared to on-camera stuff. These on-camera waveform monitors are kind of junk. I mean, I hate to say it, that the one built into the ZR is not that great. It really confused me in the beginning until I had something proper to look at. So yeah, you can see a big difference between the low ISO and the high ISO effect on the waveform and where things start to truncate and clip. So yeah, I mean, I hope this helps. I hope this helps you understand exposure on the ZR a little bit better, and really just, yeah, play with these tools. Play with the tools and start to learn about the latitude and flexibility of the camera. And this stuff, I mean, really, you know, it's gonna help you get closer to the final thing. I mean, sorry, I'm not great at talking about this stuff, but yeah. Anyway, so that's it. That's me. I'll show you more stuff in the future. All right, thanks. Bye.